Well, for a closer look at the situation in Venezuela and Canada's role in that, I'm joined now by Ken Frankel. He's a veteran observer and analyst of Latin American politics and the president of the Canadian Council for the Americas. Good to see you, Mr. Frankel. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thanks for coming in to speak with me. What do you think of the role of the Trudeau government and the role it's playing in trying to bring about this change and quite a leadership role, trying to bring about this change in leadership in Venezuela?
I'm always supportive of Canadian leadership in the hemisphere. It's something that I've been arguing for a number of years. The Venezuelan situation has presented what I would say is a perfect opportunity for the Trudeau government to showcase the principles of its foreign policy. And Venezuela provides that in spades. It's not to say it's a great situation, it's a horrible situation, a horribly complex situation, but I fully endorse the intervention of Canada, and I think, I know that throughout the hemisphere, Canada's profile has very much been elevated because of the role that Canada has played in trying to solve the Venezuelan crisis.
And is this part of a wider strategy, do you think, for Canada to play a larger role in the area?
I don't think it has been up until now, but I would like to think that in the global affairs and in the Trudeau government, they're seeing, which is something that I've said for a long time, which is if you want to find friends and influence people and demonstrate what your government and what this country stands for, your best place to do it is in Latin America. And I tend to think that their experience now in Venezuela is starting to make them realize, hey, that could be the case. And so I think it's going that way. I'd like to think it's going that way.
When you hear some of the critics suggest that this is wrong for Canada, Canada's, in a sense, adopting U.S.-style support for regime change, and that's not where Canada should be. What do you say to those critics?
I say I disagree with them. This is not a question of regime change, however we want to define that. If the standard for what we think is regime change is what happened in Iraq with the U.S. intervention, then this is nothing like that whatsoever. And I think that if Canada is going to play an important role in the world, that this is a place where they can play it. Now, it's true that the United States is heavily involved with what's going on in Venezuela. Mm-hmm. That's natural. It's always been the predominant player in the hemisphere. Having said that, Canada has cobbled together, with the help of others, this LIMA group of a number of countries, and all the important countries in the region, with one or two exceptions perhaps, to not necessarily be a counterweight to the U.S., but present and first bring this forward as a way of trying to find a peaceful way out of that. So I don't think this is not the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail. The LIMA group was out front on this and has been very clear about what they want to do going forward. The question will be, is going forward, can they keep that consensus together, and what role will they play vis-a-vis the United States? And that's something we don't know yet.
All right, so what are you watching for that would answer those questions? So,
well,
I mean, I think you've pointed out before that this will have to be a long-term commitment. What does that mean?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, we may see sooner than later how some of this is going to play out, and that's with the delivery of humanitarian aid to Venezuela. It's a country that's been devastated on every single level you want to analyze, the economy, the social structure, et cetera, et cetera. But one acute need it has now, and it has had for a while, it gets more acute, is basic humanitarian need. We're talking about food and medicines, right? And so there's now as you know, Canada announced this morning that there was going to be providing aid. The question is, okay, how does it get there? Right. And is it going to be working with the government of Maduro or not? And if not, what happens from there?
Right. I mean, the thing to watch for, it sounds like the Canadian plan is to deliver most of that aid to support the 3 million refugees who left Venezuela to neighboring countries. But there's also talk that somehow there'll be efforts to get some of that aid into Venezuela, and that will tell us a lot about what Maduro's got in mind, right?
Absolutely, it will, and it'll have a little sense, get us to see a little bit what the U.S. has in mind about doing all that. The hope is that the Maduro government won't reject it. That's bad optics, although Maduro government's never been that concerned about optics, but there's reason to think they are now. And by rejecting the giving of humanitarian aid, that's going to even play worse inside his country. So I'm guessing, and this is what's coming out of the LIMA group meeting today, we'll find out with the communique, that they're examining seriously how is that going to happen and what does that stratagem look to make sure that the people get the aid that they're supposed to get.
I mean, the idea in an ideal situation for people who want Juan Guaido to become the new leader, at least an interim leader that would then order elections as soon as possible. The ideal thing would be for Nicolas Maduro to leave office because of the pressure from sanctions or ongoing diplomatic pressure. But if he doesn't, we've heard the President of the United States suggest that he's not ruling out a military intervention. When you hear that, do you worry about that?
Yes, I do. And I think a number of other countries do, and I'm sure Canada does as well. The question is, as we said, this is a very fluid process, and it's a very bold initiative that's happened. The question is it's not clear yet, and I'm not even sure the LIMA group knows yet how that if they played that out in war game that as to what that looks like.
And what do you think the appetite is well, I think Canada's been clear in suggesting that it doesn't believe that's the way to go, but if the United States were to propose that, what happens, is everybody in the LIMA group against military action, or do you think they might find some support in that group?
It's conceivable that there might be some support, I think, but majority and overwhelmingly they would not be for that. And I think it's just going to be waiting to see what happens and responding to what Maduro does and doesn't do, and before they figure out whether there's a decision whether that comes to a crisis point, and some countries like the United States says, that's it, we're going in now.
All right, lots to watch for, as you say, in a fluid situation. Ken Frankel, appreciate your time.
Thank you.